There are some ships that cross oceans, and then there was one that went straight into history. Titanic, the ship called unsinkable until it sank. Some say it was destiny, but the truth was hidden deep in its size, its steel, and its silence. This isn't just a story of a ship, it's a lesson forged in metal. From luxury to lifeboats, from power to panic, Titanic was more than a ship. It was a floating dream. And when that dream broke, the whole world woke up. One morning in April 1912, there was a spark in people's eyes. Titanic was ready for its final trial. That it was being called the world's largest passenger ship. People were calling it unsinkable, fully believing in its design. Every inch had magic hidden in steel and perfection. Its length was nearly 882 feet, equal to a city. Titanic's design was a new chance for modern technology. It had 9 decks that could carry over 2,200 people, and each deck held a different class's world. Watertight compartments were included in the design. .16 compartments, claimed to be fail-proof. These compartments were made to stop the ship from sinking. That a double-bottomed hull was used below the ship. That it worked as an extra safety wall. Every engineer was proud of this. Design. People thought Titanic could survive anything. Size, steel, design, everything was unmatched. But sometimes, even the biggest things carry hidden weakness. Titanic had taken shape. Now it was time to move. But the sea never follows design, and Titanic didn't know what waited ahead. Titanic didn't just rely on size. Its real power was hidden deep inside. Its heart was its engine room, always alive and breathing. There were 29 boilers and 159 coal furnaces on board. Every day, around 600 tons of coal were burned. More than 170 workers kept the fire alive. This was the powerhouse that pushed the giant forward. Titanic had 2 triple expansion steam engines and 1 massive steam turbine, all driving 3 propellers. This gave Titanic a top speed of around 23 knots. The central propeller was 16 feet wide. Side propellers were slightly smaller, but equally powerful. Together, they could tear through waves like knives. Engineers worked in extreme heat, covered in sweat and smoke. Communication between decks was done with telegraphs and bells. Captain's commands reached the engine room instantly. The power system included dynamos too, producing electricity for the ship, lights, elevators. Even wireless signals ran on this energy. It was a floating factory, balanced, blazing, and bold. But the engines could not stop what lay ahead. They ran till the very last second, and when they died, Titanic took her final breath. Titanic's structure was a symbol of power. It was made with over 3 million rivets. Steel plates were locked together like armor. Its hull had 2 layers, double protection that if one cracked, the second could hold. This was cutting edge for 1912. Titanic had 16 watertight compartments. If 4 flooded, the ship would still float. But the iceberg tore through 6. Watertight doors were automatic. They closed the moment water was detected, but they couldn't stop the rising flood. Lifeboats were another part of safety, but only 20 were placed for 1,200 people. Over 2,200 were on board. Titanic passed all safety checks. Even the captain trusted it blindly. But nature doesn't follow certificates. When a structure cracked, fear spread like fire. Steel bent, lights flickered, and hope thinned. Titanic's strength had limits, and they were crossed. Titanic used some of the world's most advanced technology. The latest Marconi wireless system was installed on the ship. This system could send messages using radio waves. 2 young operators, Jack Phillips and Harold Bride, ran this system. They received daily messages from other ships and land stations. Thousands of signals reached Titanic every day. On the night of April 14th, several ships sent iceberg warnings. Some were filed, others were ignored. There was message overload, and priority went to passenger telegrams at 11:40 p.m. Titanic struck the iceberg. 10 minutes later, the first SOS signal was sent at IT. Was the first time the SOS distress code was used. The operators began sending non-stop signals. Carpathia, another ship, responded 4 hours away. Other ships were either asleep or had systems off. Every second in the wireless room became priceless. With every signal, hope was slipping. Each click was a scream lost in the sky. Technology screamed, but the ocean didn't listen, and Titanic, despite the signal, kept growing lonelier. Now, it was time to face the final horizon. Titanic was not just a ship, it was a floating palace. Each class had its own separate facilities, but first class was like a dream. The dining halls had chandeliers, and imported carpets covered the floors. There was even a luxury swimming pool, the first on any passenger ship. Along with that, a gym, Turkish bath, and squash court. This wasn't just a journey, it was a royal experience. The most famous spot was the Grand Staircase, a masterpiece of woodwork that was the heart of Titanic, where evening dances happened. People stood there just to take pictures, cabins had electric lights and running water. Luxury suites even had private balconies. All this was beyond imagination for 1912. But when water came in, luxury was useless. Silk curtains soaked, chandeliers went dark, the Titanic's music, laughter, and beauty sank into the sea. This tragedy woke up the world. Laws changed. Lifeboats became mandatory. Luxury taught a lesson. Safety always comes first. Titanic sank, but the story didn't that it was. A ship that showed the world a dream. And when it vanished, everything changed. Case closed.